Hello, welcome. This is Roland. Today I just wanted to stop by, talk about code of honor. The code of honor is a very important thing to have. A code of honor that's written out is good. Even better yet is to have one in your heart, a code of honor in your heart. There was a congressman, and Bob Dornan, I think his name was, and he was telling the story of two men who were sword fighting. This was in a real battle scene. They were sword fighting. And they fought furiously. And the one sword fighter slashed away and pushed the other one against the wall and then said, "I see no medals on your chest." And then the other one rallied and fought furiously, pushing the other one back, and put the point of the sword upon the other man against the wall and said, "I wear my medals on my heart." Okay? I wear my medals on my heart. Well, a code of honor is a very important thing. Now, I discovered something that I enjoy reading. It happened last summer. Would you like to know the story? I'll tell you the story. I spent 3 weeks on a little vacation. My son had some work in another town, and so I went with him. And I used that 3 weeks for a kind of a vacation. And so I went to the library there to look for a Zane Grey novel. You know, Zane Grey was a famous Western novelist. And I had read one the summer before. I have not been a person to read novels ever since when I was a kid and a teenager. I loved reading novels. But then over the ensuing years, up until recently, I'll tell you the whole story, I've really never read a novel. From age, 20 until 60-something, I never read a novel. But last summer, I got a Zane Grey novel. I think it was called The Rainbow Bridge or something like that. A Western. They had a Western section in the library, Western novels section. So I got it, and it was enjoyable. I enjoyed reading it. So this last summer, once again, I thought, well, I'll read another Zane Grey novel. So I went to the library, and there were the novels, and I picked one out, and then I went back to where I was staying with some nice people on my vacation, and I settled down into my chair to read the Zane Grey novel, and guess what? I picked the wrong book. Instead of Zane Grey, I had accidentally picked up a Western novel by Louis L'Amour. And I thought, oh, geez. So I started to read it a little bit. I thought, well, I'll just read a little bit, and then tomorrow I'll go back to the library and get my Zane Grey. And you know what? I read more and more. And then a few days later, I got another one, and then another one. By the end of my vacation, I think I'd read 3 or 4 Louis L'Amour Western novels. And since that time, I've enjoyed reading them. And so I would like to recommend them. There's many good things to be said about the Louis L'Amour Western novels, and he also wrote a lot of short stories. But for sure, well, there are a lot of good things to be said. One of them is that the language is, there's no bad language. Nothing untoward. Nothing that's not, that kids couldn't read. Okay? So they're just nice in that respect. But and they're good stories. But there's a lot of other good things. For example, and that's what I'm talking, what I want to talk about today, the Western man. See, and Louis L'Amour, he had over 17,000 volumes in his library. He was an avid reader. And he wrote his novels. He actually went to the location where the novel was going to be, the plot was going to take place. And he looked it over. He studied it. He also read all the details of history, so he knew all about the period in which he was writing and the place at which he was writing. So they're almost historical novels, basically. Okay, so you will learn a lot about the opening of the continent, about the Old West. You'll learn a lot. And but one thing that the Western men had, you know, the days of the Old West, you know, the 1800s, they had a code that they would not harm a woman. They would not shoot a woman. They would not harm a woman. They wouldn't use bad language in the presence of a woman. They would treat women with respect and dignity, and they wouldn't stand for other men using bad language in the presence of a woman. Okay? It was beautiful, really. So it was a rough and tumble time, wasn't it? Rough and tumble. But there was a code of honor among these men. And it was unwritten. It was an unwritten code. But they all abided by it. And if a man hit a woman or did something bad to a woman, he might as well get out of town. He might as well get out of town. Okay? Well, so we're talking about a code of honor. Okay? So a code of honor is an excellent thing. You know, like the Boy Scouts have their code. And I recommend that you have a code of, that you think about your code of honor. Do you have honor? Now, especially if you're a man. Women too, but especially as a man. Okay? And especially as a husband. And especially as a father. You've got to have a code of honor. Okay? And you have to abide by it. All right? It's very important. So, and it's got to be a good code of honor too. Something about kindness and about patience and about courage and about wisdom and about helping people weaker than yourself and honoring women and protecting the innocence of children. It's got to be a good code of honor. Not just, I'm not going to let anybody put me down, man. I'm not going to let anybody get over on me. No, not that. It's got to have a lot more depth to it. Okay, so I may talk about, but I'll say what a good start would be. A good start would be to do. Here's a good start. And if you really and truly live this, you don't have to even have a written code of honor. See, written code of honor is kind of like a step toward ultimately living and being what you are. You know, you've heard the old expression where sometimes kids don't listen to their parents, or somebody doesn't listen to another person, and then the reason is that, you know, what you are speaks so loudly I can't hear what you're saying. What you are speaks so loudly I can't hear what you're saying. See, so you have to, what you are has to represent what you speak. Okay. So a good start would be to always do what you know is right in your heart. That would be a good start. Always do what you know is right in your heart. Okay. You kind of know. You know, you could get people of goodwill from all over the world. And if they really have goodwill, you know, a man from China and someone from Saudi Arabia and someone from Brazil and someone from Iceland and someone from New York City, see, someone from Finland. And then they could see something, like they could see someone being cruel to a child, for example. And they would all see that it's wrong. they would all see that it's wrong. Okay? They would all see it the same way. It's universal. Okay? This intuition that we have, it's universal. It's from God. God gives animals instincts. He gives humans intuition. So that's where, see, so when you live, see, Christ honored the commandments and the 10 Commandments. He honored them. Okay? But he went on to say that they asked him, well, what's the greatest law? And he said, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, strength, and soul, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? So if you do that, then, they're just natural. See, I'll give you an example. There's 2 ways of stopping at a stop sign. Okay? The one way is to stop at a stop sign because you don't want to get a ticket. You don't want a policeman to be there and give you a ticket. You don't want to get a ticket. So you stop. Grudgingly, resentfully. So you'd rather not. And if you're sure that nobody's looking, then you just glide through it. Slow down for it, see? Then sometimes you get a ticket anyway because there's a policeman somewhere nearby. Okay? But there's a better way to stop for the stop sign. You know what that is? To stop for the stop sign because you see that it's wise. You see that it's the right thing to do. See, it's the safe thing to do. It's the right thing to do for other people who expect you to stop. It's wise and it's right. So, with that kind of an attitude, you're going to stop, not because you have to, but because you see that it's wise. See, you're doing what you see is right in what you know is right in your heart. See? So there's a good start for a code of honor. Okay? So it'll be written in your heart. It says in the Bible, God said, the day is coming when one person won't have to teach another, because I will write my laws into their mind and into their hearts. And I shall be their God, and they shall be my people. Okay? So then you have a code of honor within. And when you honor that, see, when you live by that, because you want to, not because you have to, but because you want to, then you will be a man or a woman of honor, of principle, of courage, of dignity. See? And you will shine like a light. See? And your children will respect you. But here's just a little word of caution to you. Some of you don't really understand what I'm saying. You don't get it. Maybe after you meditate. Maybe if you get my meditation. When the day comes that you're ready. When you're driven. Abraham Lincoln, they asked Ronald Reagan one time, they said, do you pray? And he says, all I can say is what Abraham Lincoln said. And Abraham Lincoln said, sometimes when times are difficult, there are big issues, I'm driven to my knees. He said, I'm driven to my knees. And that's what Ronald Reagan was saying. He's driven to his knees. There's a beautiful painting of George Washington, a truly noble man, the father of our country. There's that beautiful painting of him in the forest during the darkest hour of the War for Independence. And he was on his knees in his full, beautiful uniform. He was on his knees in the snow praying, see? So before men he stood tall, but he was on his knees before his Creator, you see. Well, that's the way you have to be. So the little word of warning is, okay, in case you're just kind of listening to me and you don't really deeply understand what I'm saying, and that is that having honor, okay, and standing for what's right and for principle and so on, you have to have a twinkle in your eye. Okay. Especially at home with your kids and your partner. You stand for what's right, but not with anger. You stand for what's right, not with anger, not with resentment, not with hostility, not rigidly. But you stand for what's right with a twinkle in your eye. See? It's a beautiful thing to see the calm hand of a man with understanding and patience. It's a beautiful thing. Okay? Well, I hope you, and another thing that comes to me, another little saying that I heard that I think is so nice. And you know what it is? It says, a man never stands so tall as when he stoops to help a child. A man never stands so tall as when he stoops to help a child. Okay? Very nice. So I began by talking about Louis L'Amour, which I enjoy his novels. And there's a lot to be learned in them. One thing is for sure, that there was a code of honor. Okay. Here are a couple of, I just wanted to show you these since I have them because they have nice covers. Here's one. It's Louis L'Amour, Writing for the Brand. Writing for the Brand. It's a collection of his short stories, one longer one actually a novelette, but short stories. Writing for the Brand. You know what writing for the brand means? It's an old expression from the Old West. It means when a man hires out to work for, like a ranch or something, roping cattle and branding cattle, mending fences and all the things that cowboys did. He was loyal to that brand. Okay? He was loyal to it. That's what writing for the brand means. It means you're loyal. Your loyalty is to your employer there. Okay? There's a little book. It's called Big Medicine. Okay? Has another nice cover with a cowboy on it, and also a collection of short stories and a novelette. Okay? So you say, well, which would you recommend? He wrote over 100 novels. See, when I was a kid, you know what I liked? I liked authors who wrote a lot of books, so that if I find one that I liked, then I could find a whole bunch more. Okay? So, for example, I liked the Oz books when I was a little kid, because L. Frank Baum, I think his name was, well, he wrote The Wizard of Oz, of course, but then he wrote a lot more. The Ozma of Oz and the Emerald City of Oz, and there's a whole bunch of them. So I loved reading them, and I read them more than once. I'd read all of them, and then I'd go back and read one that I had read a long time ago. And so there were other authors who wrote, So a lot of people, they like the, is it Carol Keene, who wrote the, there's the Hardy Boys and the Nancy Drew Mysteries. Okay, Carol Keene was the pen name. There was one lady who wrote like the first 100 of the Nancy Drew Mysteries. So there's a lot of Nancy Drew mysteries, and so it's a real joy if you like mysteries and Nancy Drew. Then there's a lot of reading. Hardy Boys, quite a few were written, so like that. So anyway, he wrote a lot. So I couldn't tell you which one to read. If you want to start with something that's just very pleasant, something that's very, very Hopalong Cassidy or The Lone Ranger, remember? Just really nice, very nice man who faced danger, and at the end, the good guy wins. And of course, in all of what I was going to say is, you could pick up any one of his novels or any one of his short stories, Louis L'Amour, and they would all be good. So you could start anywhere. But if you wanted to start somewhere, okay, well, you could start with his Hopalong Cassidy novels. He wrote 3 of them. He was given a contract by the publishing firm. The man who originally wrote the Hopalong Cassidy books was retiring, and they wanted someone who could write some more. So they hired Louis L'Amour. And originally he wrote them under a pen name, but they're very, very nice. A lot of fun, like watching The Lone Ranger or Hopalong Cassidy on television. Okay, so that might be good. One of those. I can't think of the titles. You could easily Google search it. So we're talking about a code of honor. Very important. A code of honor. Okay. My name is Roland.